Hey guys, so we're back with some more kurzgesagt in a nutshell. The origin of consciousness, how unaware things became aware. This is really interesting for me. I like to see what they have to say about the issue, the origin of consciousness. Man, wouldn't I like to know? Okay, let's get into the video. Wonderful animation as always. Let's get started, shall we?
Consciousness is perhaps the biggest riddle in nature. Stripped to its core meaning, consciousness is what allows us to be aware both of our surroundings and of our own inner state. But thinking about consciousness has this habit of taking us round in circles. We all intuitively know what consciousness is. It's this. It's what you're experiencing here, right now. But once we try to pinpoint just what exactly it is, it leaves us grasping at thin air. And not just us. Philosophers and scientists struggle to define consciousness. Different schools and ideas compete with one another, but no one has come close to figuring it out. It's unsettling to realize that we don't understand what makes us aware of ourselves and the world. In this fuzzy area, consciousness and intelligence are also related, although they are not the same. We'll talk in greater depth about theories of consciousness and intelligence in other videos.
I have a challenge for all of you. Go to every computer in your house, your mom's, your dad's, your sister, your brother's computer, and install Honey. Wait, Mom, before you check out.
Like much of what makes us human, our consciousness is likely to have evolved from less complex forms as a product of evolution by natural selection. It has probably emerged from an immense several hundred million year sequence of countless microsteps that together make up a sort of gradient of consciousness. What was the first step on this path from the non-conscious to the basic consciousness that ultimately led to the convoluted consciousness we humans enjoy today? Take a stone. The consensus is that a stone is not conscious, though not everyone agrees even on this. Some panpsychists claim that a lump of rock may have an inner life. However, there are no real grounds for any such assumption, since stones never show behavior. Their inner life can neither be proven nor disproven. A more common starting point is with living things. A living thing, or a self, is a part of the universe that sustains itself and makes more of its kind. To do so, it needs energy. And this is where an awareness of the world comes in handy. The original function of consciousness was probably to direct a mobile self that was short of energy to a fresh supply of food. On the smaller scales of life, you don't need to be aware to find food. Trichoplax adherens, one of the simplest of all animals, moves around haphazardly. It slows down in the presence of food and speeds up in its absence. This is highly effective and makes the tiny creature spend more time where there is food than where there is not. But it never moves in a particular direction towards a particular target, and there's no need for it to be conscious of its environment. The first major step towards consciousness was probably taken when mobile selves started to move themselves directionally, moving towards what was good for them, say food, and away from what was less good, say someone else who thought that they were food. Take Dugicia tigrina, a tiny worm known for its funny face. Sometimes the worm is hungry and sometimes not. This means that when it moves, the worm self is not simply producing an automatic response to an external stimulus, but that its actions depend upon its inner physiological state, whether it's hungry or sated. When it's just eaten, the worm is less energetic, but when starved for a while, it will move itself in the direction of tasty things. It uses chemoreceptors on its head to smell its environment and guide it in the direction where the scent of food is strongest. After finding and eating a meal, our worm buddy heads back to a dark, sheltered spot to digest it in safety, until it's hungry again. But animals that blindly follow their sense of smell don't have a concrete objective in view. They still lack any sense of where they are heading. So the next step
so far it's like I'm not sure how much of it I agree with so far, because even the conscious organism moving and just follow the sense of smell. Most animals or creatures that have those features, they tend to it has a concrete direction it's moving in, which is in the direction of food. But some of those creatures, like the one that is moving just haphazardly, it doesn't need to be able to see where it's going, because in the domain it exists in, moving haphazardly is enough for it to find food. So I don't know. Let's see where this goes down.
On the ladder of consciousness is to add some perception at a distance, like vision. Vision adds context and depth to our world. With vision comes
because different creatures have different vision, or different scale or types of vision, and if I don't know if maybe there's some part of the science that I'm missing, but as I'm thinking about it, if we're developing all these features to help us survive the birth, it would make sense for all creatures that start around the same time to develop the same type of vision, or to develop the most advanced type of vision that can be established. So to see as far as possible, as clear as possible, and as detailed as possible. But some creatures have better vision than others. Some creatures don't. Again, maybe depends on where those creatures live. Sorry, what's it called? Sorry, I'm recording. I think I'm recording. Yeah. So, what was I saying?
a sense of the space we and our food exist in. It adds a whole new dimension to awareness and is a huge step towards more familiar consciousness.
Oh, I love this animation. Is this copyrighted? Hey, that was dope.
An optical apparatus like an eye enables us to visualize our goal and lock onto it. But even at this stage, a self is only able to pursue its food as long as it sees it. So the next logical step needs to happen on the inside. To visualize food in its absence, for example, a self needs to create some sort of inner representation of the world. Now an animal can continue looking for food even when it escapes its sensory range. Because of this inner representation of what is relevant in the world, it can remain focused on its food and its desire to get it. Our self now exists in a world it can get familiar with. The ability to remember things has emerged. Thanks to memory, animals can be distracted from a pursuit for a few seconds, but quickly continue their path afterwards. A related phenomenon is called object permanence. This describes our awareness that things continue to exist even when we can't see them. This cognitive skill is enjoyed by some mammals and birds, and perhaps other animals too. Human babies tend to develop this ability around the time they turn 8 months, while baby chickens show this ability within a day or two of being born. The capacity to remember a thing in its absence suggests at least a basic sense of time. A sense of time is a big step on the ladder of consciousness. It may also enable a self to look forward from the present moment and anticipate the future. Adult chickens, for example, are able to resist a meal put in front of them if they expect to receive a bigger meal as a prize for holding back for a while. This sort of delayed gratification means there is an ability to visualize a reward that only exists in the future, which can be quite a challenge even for adult humans. Western scrub jays are experts in delayed gratification. They show an even more elaborate sense of the future when they hide food in a cache to retrieve it at a later date. The scrub jays will even re-hide their food if they become aware that a potential thief has been watching them. This means that they know that there are other hungry selves out there who are aware and see the world from their own different perspective. Crafty scrub jays can sort of read the mind of their fellow birds. This ability to mind read is crucial for complex levels of consciousness. By putting yourself in the position of others, you can outsmart a rich competitor or empathize with a hungry friend. Language takes the ability to read minds and represent what is absent to a whole new level. Words enable us to construct hypotheses about the world, make detailed plans, and to communicate them with others. Words enable us to think about ourselves and our place in the universe, and even about our own consciousness, which is something we'll be doing more in future videos. So what is the origin of our consciousness? It probably began as the directed motion of a hungry self towards a source of food.
Yeah, but I don't know if that really like explains the origin. I don't know what the origin of consciousness is. I don't really have a theory at hand right now, but I don't know. I don't feel like the question has been answered for the origin of consciousness, because this is like so far it's like ability or the various ability of different conscious organisms to learn and adapt to survive, but the awareness of consciousness that they exist and things also exist. Like, where does that come from? Like, even the organism that's just moving around randomly, it slows down when it's near food and speeds up when it's not. Even though it doesn't like see in color or things like that, it has enough awareness to find food and to stay when it sees food, and when there's no food to move away from that direction. So it's still aware, and it's aware that it needs to move to eat. But like, where does that awareness come from? Where does the consciousness come from? That I don't know how to explain it, but I still have questions.
With the survival benefits this gave it over competitors that moved at random or not at all. It probably all started with the urge for more food. So even with the sophisticated consciousness that allows us to dream about space, build skyscrapers, or obsess about novels, it's not surprising that we can't stop thinking about where we'll get our next meal. Collectively, we've put so much thought and ingenuity into getting food that we can now just get our food to come to us with little conscious effort. This video is part one of a three-part video series relating to big questions of life and the universe, made...
Yeah, because like our consciousness drives us to do a lot of things that are outside just food. A lot of things like survival in general, like reproduction and survival, shelter, and those kind of things. We strive for those things, but we get better at it and better at like more efficient ways of doing it with time, because we do learn and we're able to pass that knowledge on and build on top of that knowledge. But the origin of that consciousness, even when we haven't learned anything yet, there's still a consciousness there, because I feel like consciousness is life itself, the ability to grow, die, begin and end. That's consciousness, I believe. Like, where does that come from? where does that come from? You know, that's still the question that I have. I guess that remains unanswered. But it's also a great video. It's also informative on how things learn and adapt. But I don't think it's really mentions it really answers the origin of consciousness or how unaware things became aware, because unaware things basically is things they didn't know, but they learned to know, and then we learned how to know it better and in more detail. And depending on the organism, they have different proficiency with that. But like the consciousness itself is what I'm trying to find an answer to. So for now, I'll just go with a working theory that the origin of consciousness, the origin of life is maybe the spirit or the soul. Maybe that's the energy, the potential energy that we have that we then use to look for more things to like give us more potential energy with food and calories, to strive for more things to make ourselves last longer on the planet. But at the root of it, I'll say yeah, I'll go with that working theory that the origin of consciousness would be like the spirit of the soul. That would be like the core or the primary source of energy that we have or other creatures have, that then powers them up to learn about how to survive better. So, great video, guys. See you later. Doses.